If you want to make multiples of the same piece, you'll need to make a 2-part plaster mold. I already have 3 pieces ready, and I start by placing them in a bed of clay. You want half of the piece in the clay and the other half exposed. Then you need a spout, and this will act as the entrance for the slip to be poured in and out of. The spout should be wider than the opening of the vase so that the slip can pour out easily. You need to make sure that all the seams are seamless, so I'm building it up and making them really smooth. You don't want any plaster seeping into cracks or seams because it could possibly ruin the mold and your pieces. So this step is pretty important to get right. You also want to make registration marks so that your mold can fit together perfectly. This will also prevent the slip from moving around. It will all be contained in just the vase that you're trying to create. Once you have the walls in place, you have to make sure that there's no cracks for the plaster to seep out of, so you have to make everything seamless once again. Step is very important because if you pour some plaster in here and there is a crack, it can all just start flowing out. And honestly, when that happens, you just start to panic, and it is so hard to contain once it starts pouring out if there's a crack. There is a plaster to water ratio that you do have to follow. You can look this up online. It's really not hard to find. You just want to make sure that there's no clumps left in the plaster before you start pouring. You could also do that by using a mixer. Once everything's airtight, you can start pouring the plaster in. And when everything is fully submerged in plaster, you want to knock the air bubbles out. So you do that for a few minutes, and you can even start to see the bubbles popping when you do that. Once the first side is finished, it is a bit easier to build up the second side. The vases are snug in place in the plaster, so now you just have to build up the walls again and then make sure that's airtight. Before pouring the next set of plaster on, you do want to add some mold release. This is just an oil soap that you can get from any grocery store. I'm pretty sure I got it from Dollarama. So I just repeated the same steps that I did before with building up the walls and filling in the cracks so that everything's airtight. And now you have a 2-part plaster mold, and you can create multiples of the same piece. If you sell your own ceramics, this is a really great way to keep up with stocking your inventory. It's a bit tedious to make the molds, but it makes your life so much easier in the long run.